This just in. Breaking news. Our top story tonight, 14-time World Series of Poker bracelet winner Phil Hellmuth has been charging high markups and showing up to tournaments late. This has caused outrage amongst people who apparently have not followed Phil Hellmuth at any point in his entire career. Next up, high-stakes poker player Justin Bonomo is on an absurd high-stakes heater, winning many millions of dollars in a short stretch. Apparently he's been playing well, but I don't think he's made any decision quite as good as the one he made recently to change his hairstyle. Popular poker YouTuber is mysteriously absent from this year's World Series of Poker. Is this guy taking a break, or did he spend the last of it on some unnecessary purchases? And finally tonight, protecting the poker dream. Has the poker dream died, or has it just $10 cash changed? All of this and more tonight on Poker News. Before we jump into our story today, I want to talk about what I've been up to lately. Now, if you've been following me here or on my crypto channel, you've probably noticed I've been posting a lot less videos. And that's because I've been posting a lot less videos. I've been trying to think about the way I want to spend my time and what I want to do, doing a little bit of soul searching. I mean, I'm probably a little young for a midlife crisis, but I want to figure out the best way to spend my time and do things that I really enjoy. And one of the conclusions that I came to was I wanted to start a channel where I could talk about mainstream news or do just general comedy or anything else that I had in mind. So I'm starting a mainstream YouTube channel. If you want to check it out, I got my first video up. It'll be a link in the description below. You can check it out. It's going to be kind of this same style of news show, but about more general topics. And then we're going to go from there. I have no idea exactly what it's going to look like, but I'm looking forward to it, and I hope you guys join me for the ride. As for what that means on this channel, I don't really know. I'm going to be doing occasional videos. I don't know if that means once a month, once a week. I'm not really sure, but as good topics come up and I want to make a video, I'm going to do that. I just don't want to feel pigeonholed into having to make them. So if you just like poker, you're in here for the poker, you can stay right here. And if you're interested in other stuff I'm up to, you can check out the link in the description below. All right, let's go ahead and jump into our first topic. Phil Hellmuth has been causing a stir lately, and that's not really something new for the poker brat. This is something he's used to doing. But this time it's about markup. Now, this has come into play several times before. Phil Hellmuth has always tried to sell some small pieces of himself at high markups. But what's making it a little worse nowadays is that it's been more publicized that he shows up to events late. Now, there's two types of showing up to an event late. There's showing up to an event late and being given your chips, and there's showing up to an event late where you're being blinded out. Both of those scenarios aren't nearly as good for an investor, but it's significantly worse when you're being blinded out. Well, that's what happened in this year's Super High Roller Bowl. Phil Hellmuth showed up, I want to say level 3. I'm almost sure it was level 3. It might have been level 4, but I think it was level 3. And had already been blinded out for around 20 or 25,000 of his chips, of his 300,000 starting stack, prompting this tweet from Goose Core, so essentially, kind of calling out Phil Hellmuth for getting blinded out. And look, you should get called out. It's a $300,000 tournament, and you're just giving away free chips when you have people who bought a piece of you. This has led to a lot of discussion on Twitter, on Reddit, on 2+2. People are talking about what should and shouldn't be allowed when it comes to markup and it comes to showing up late and all of these different types of things. I want to start off with talking about the idea of selling at markups that are frankly outrageous. And if you look at what Phil Hellmuth is selling at for these tournaments and you compare it to a site like, let's say, Poker Shares, which shows someone's much closer to true ROI, you'll notice that Phil Hellmuth sells substantially above what his EV in the tournament likely is, thus making it a negative EV investment for his investors. This has caused outrage from many players, including Scott Seaver, talking about if this should be allowed, if it should be illegal to do so, and all types of different stuff. Is there a responsibility from the site, Ustake or Stake King? So these guys have a responsibility to protect investors and all types of different topics regarding if you're profitable at that markup. But I just want to say here, and this is something that I also tweeted, if Phil Hellmuth sold at even in the Super High Roller Bowl, he would still be losing, right? Because he's not going to be up to par with a lot of the other players. So the question becomes, should Phil Hellmuth have to sell at 0.9? Well, obviously he can't do that. And in general, I'm not a fan of this idea that people should be forced to sell at what their actual value in a tournament is, or at a profitable value in a tournament. The thing is, when you're an investor, you have a responsibility to do your research and understand what's going on. If you're buying a player who's a little older and maybe hasn't been studying and shows up getting blinded out to the tournament, then don't buy a piece of them. That's your responsibility as an investor. It's not, frankly, it's not his responsibility to have to decide whether he's profitable or not and sell at a profitable price. He can sell whatever he wants. If Phil Hellmuth has enough demand where people would like to pay 5x markup to have a piece of him and enjoy the sweat, that's his right to do so if he can find buyers. Now, what's not okay is misleading the buyers. If he says to them, you're buying a piece of me in this tournament, I'm going to show up on time, I'm going to play my A game, and then he's not there for 3 levels, well, that wouldn't be okay. But to my knowledge, Phil Hellmuth has never misled anyone that he's going to be there early. Phil Hellmuth almost never gets to anything early, so this is certainly in line with the way that he plays, and while it might not be a cool thing to do, I wouldn't do it if people had a piece of me. It's still within his right to do so as long as he's not misleading people. It's a free market. The market should decide if 1.8 is a reasonable price to pay on Phil Hellmuth for a 10K super knockout, and if the market says it is, then that's the price. I do think it is seriously not cool, though, to show up late getting blinded out of a tournament. And for some reason, Phil Hellmuth fails to address this in a lot of his tweets. He talks about his past results, using a few scores that he had as examples, and that's really just a terrible argument. I mean, how can you possibly argue that it's better to be blinded out not being there than to be there and playing like Phil Hellmuth Oh. I see. I'm not saying that we should actively try and give people bad investments, but when you buy Phil Hellmuth, you're buying it for the entertainment. And that's what makes the poker piece buying market so interesting. It's at an intersection of investing and entertainment. For some people, it's more entertainment. For some people, it's more of an investment. And that's really up to them to decide what they want to do. The only thing that should absolutely be clear is the way that they're going to behave. And as long as that happens, I'm okay with the situation. Next up, Justin Bonomo is on an absurd heater. Now, I think Justin Bonomo also plays quite good poker, but these results are getting a little scary. I'm not saying we're quite Fedor levels, but actually I think we're kind of getting to Fedor levels. Let's look at this last run. Look at this since the start of May. First place for 460K US in a 25K in Monte Carlo. First place in a 25K in Monte Carlo for 300K. Then he has a brutal 4th place finish for 75K. I feel a little bad for him. It kind of sucks to see that in there. You know, it almost hurts. Then we have this absolutely ridiculous stretch. First place in the Super High Roller Bowl for $5 million. First place in a tournament 4 days later, which is right afterwards, for 350K. Then 3 days later, first place in 25K for another 300K. Then 3 days later, first place in the Heads Up tournament, which had a lot of people, 110-ish people, first place for 186K. This is getting completely outrageous. Getting first place in this many tournaments is completely ridiculous. These are unreal results. It's almost like he's playing for multiple people. All in all, though, these runs happen. We talk about them all the time. They basically, someone just goes on a real sick stretch of winning a bunch of tournaments. And generally speaking, the people that do are good players. This is why we saw Fedor go in that stretch. We saw Coleman go in that stretch. We've seen Bryn Kenny crush earlier this year. When you're a good player, and then you also start to run hot, it's a deadly combination, and you can win many events in a row, particularly in some of these smaller fields. I do think it's important for the poker community to understand, though, that just because someone goes on this run doesn't mean they're the best player of all time. We had the same conversation with Fedor, the same conversation with Dan Coleman. I don't want to keep having to do that. Tournament results are a general indicator towards who the better players are, but I want to say Jamie Gold won the main event one year. That's right, and so did Jerry Yang. So if you think there's justice in tournaments, well, I don't know. You're just stupid, I guess, because there's not. Speaking of Jerry Yang, I saw this clip the other day, and somehow I'd never seen it before. But how tilted are you at this clip at the World Series of Poker final table when in the background this woman says this while you're all in?
Come on, Father. In Jesus' name, no weapon formed against him shall prosper.
Purpose for me today.
Come on, make him a believer. Make Lee a believer, Father.
I'm not sure who the Lord is listening to, but Watkinson needs a 7 or he's done.
Father, in the name of Jesus Christ, come on, let me win this one.
River card now
Father.
is a jack.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
The Lord works in mysterious ways. Moving on, I just briefly want to mention that I'm not planning on playing this summer at the World Series. I'll play the main event, but other stuff, probably not. still trying to figure out exactly the way I want to spend my time and sort of expand my interests. I've also been working on Coin Central and doing things with Upswing, so I'm still spending my time on a lot of my businesses and social media and all that kind of stuff, but my desire to grind tournaments just isn't there, and I'm sorry if that lets some of you guys down. I know a lot of you guys like to see me play, and I'm sorry that I can't be that guy for you, but at the same time, I also have to do the things that I'd like to do, and I appreciate those of you that understand. Our final story tonight is the poker dream dead? Now, this is what I mean by that, because certainly it's not dead in that there will be no one that comes up to the top anymore, but I mean the general idea of it. I think back to when I got started in poker as an 18-year-old, and basically the reason I got into it was because it was against people and you could win. I didn't get into poker because I loved gambling. That came later. The reason I got into poker was because I thought one day I could make it to the top. And I know that a lot of people in my age range got into it for the same reason. They saw Tom Dwan. They saw Taylor Cabey. They saw a lot of these players back in the day who are well known, Cole South. These guys make it to the top, and they wanted to one day get there too and emulate that success. But nowadays, poker companies don't seem to think that's part of the poker dream anymore. They want to make this as much like slot machines as possible, where you get slowly grinded down, there are almost no winners, and it's as much of a luck fest as possible. I mean, look at these game types that are offered on PokerStars. Skill games are being slowly removed, like Heads Up and Six Max with higher rake. And then in their place, these games where essentially skill plays a very little role are replacing them. And I don't like that. That takes away from the dream. And I know it's about a money grab short term, but I don't think that's healthy long term. I can see the demographic of people that are interested in poker because I can see my audience. I can see the demographics. And they're getting older and older. And what does that mean for the future of poker? Sure, it might not be a problem today. It might not be a problem in 10 years. But what about in 20 or 30 years when there are no new people coming in? That's a serious issue. And there's a few reasons I think this has happened. First off, Black Friday has really removed the younger generation in America from playing poker. So that's definitely an issue there too. But in a lot of other countries, smarter people are not getting involved in poker because they see the writing on the wall and how tough it's getting. We should not be pushing young, intelligent people out of the game. We should be embracing it and helping them succeed. Helping them succeed by allowing them games to thrive. I'm not saying that we should play easy against young, smart people. What I'm saying is, as long as that dream is there, then people will come to the game. Think about all of the heroes in poker that we love. Think about Doyle Brunson or Tom Dwan or any of these guys who've made it to the top. We think of these guys as heroes, not because they played poker and gambled a lot, but because they won. And because we like winners in the community because it shows what our game is all about. I hate when people say poker is just like blackjack or roulette or whatever. It's not. The average poker player is far more intelligent and much more adept at critical thinking. That difference is key in a game of strategy. You don't play against the house, you play against people, and you try and outwit them in order to win money. That's what's necessary to make poker a great game. You need a lot of skill and also a lot of luck. That's what makes it so beautiful. That blend keeps people in the mix. You know, there's a reason why all skill doesn't work. Look at chess. We don't exactly have a lot of high stakes matches going down. What makes poker so great is how interwoven the luck and skill are as a cloud for people that don't want to learn about getting better and as a way to improve for people that do. That's what makes poker so great. Now, that's not to say that there aren't people that just want to occasionally play and don't care. I think that's fine. If you want to create game types that also appeal to these types of recreational players, that's okay. But if we start treating poker players like they're exactly the same as any other degenerate gambler, why worry where the future of poker is headed? This is why it's important to try and keep the poker dream alive. Fight for lower rake. Fight for fair games. Fight for skill. Fight for good players to be able to win. And even if you're a poor player and you don't like the fact that the better players take your money, I understand where you're coming from, but that's part of the game. You can't get mad at good people for being good. Try and improve yourself, and then one day you can take their place. I might not be playing poker much these days, but one thing's for sure. I will always fight to defend people's right to play poker and have a chance to win. Because that chance is what got people like me involved and have given me the life that I've had. And I want that opportunity to be there for people that want to play in the future. Thanks for joining me today, guys. If you're interested in my new channel, links below, and I'll see you guys again soon.